In this video, I want to take a look at a game that I played against a much lower rated opponent, and I decided to play an opening which I don't really play, the Scotch. And here my opponent played d5, which surprised me, and during the game I thought that this must be losing by force, because even though I'm not an expert on the Scotch, I do know that e takes d4 is pretty much the only move. After the game, I looked at it with an engine and I looked at the database and found maybe a couple dozen games in this position played by masters. The reason I believe there's so few games is because after the queens get traded, black doesn't have any realistic winning chances. Now here I took with the pawn. Apparently the best move is to take with a knight, and the second best move is to go bishop b5. But I took, and my opponent decided not to trade queens because I think that he didn't like his position after takes and queen takes, and if he takes with a knight, well, I can go knight d4, and my knight is much better placed than his knight on the d8 square. And well, he played this move, but he had to go for the other move. This is just basically just winning for white. After pawn takes, this is just a simple technical win. My opponent played knight b4. I went c4 to protect the pawn, which was being attacked by the knight and the queen. And he played bishop g4, and here I thought about playing bishop e2, but decided to play this move, queen b3, which is not very good because after you take, well, I have to take with the pawn, because if I take with the queen, the knight c2 check wins the rook. So now my pawn structure is not the greatest, and well, where's my king gonna castle? I've already played c4, so my king is looking a little shaky. And now this move, bishop h4, which just hangs the knight. So I just took the knight. Now knight e7. Here I played rook g1 to attack the pawn and activate my rook. That way, at least I have something to show for the double pawns. My opponent castled, and I played bishop h6, which it's not a good move because, well, this move, knight f5, attacking the bishop, and well, I should have played knight c3 because now I have to retreat the bishop, and after knight d4, a very good move. There's knight c2 check, it's a threat, attacking the king and the queen, so that would lose the queen. And well, knight takes on f3 check is gonna win the exchange. And so here I should have played queen to c3, defending both the c2 square and the f3 square. And after something like c5, rook g4, well, white is just completely winning. Fortunately for my opponent, I blunder with this move, bishop d3, and now I lose the exchange and a pawn. And after rook e8, well, I played f4. Queen c3 was better, although there is this very tricky line which may result in a perpetual check. After bishop takes f2 check, if king takes, queen h4 check, king g1, and queen g4, and well, if you go king h1, then you have something like queen f3 check, and well, during the game it's very difficult to calculate how exactly you're gonna get your king to safety. Probably something like this, but it's still, well, not so simple, because black can put the rooks on the B and C files and open up the position, so that's not something I wanted to have to play. So after f4, f6, and I went bishop c3, which is not a move that I wanted to play. I'd much rather develop my knight, but I thought it was necessary. And here my opponent made this strange move, queen c8, defending the pawn, but really my king is not so safe, so I'm not really interested in taking pawns. And well, I was more worried about this queen coming to g4 and checking my king, because there's basically no protection except for this pawn. So I played bishop e2, defending g4. e6 was a much better move. Not only am I stopping the threat, but now I have a protected passed pawn, which is basically gonna win the game. So after bishop e2, my opponent captured, and I was tempted to take with a pawn, but that's actually giving black an advantage. So I played the correct move. Sometimes I do play the best moves. So after bishop takes, the queen goes back, which I think is very strange. Going there and then coming back, not developing this rook. And here I set up a little trap with this move. The point is you can't take the pawn because you drop your queen. Because, well, the queen can't move. It's pinned to the king. And now my opponent played this move a5, attacking my queen. I just move here, centralizing my queen, defending the bishop. And here my opponent took the bishop, which I don't think it's a good move, but I can't really see a better move for black. I mean, the engine's move, bishop f6, doesn't seem like a human would make that kind of a move. And while bishop e7 just looks passive. So after the recapture, I took with the queen. Bishop drops back. Now, if I move the queen anywhere but the e6 square, I'm gonna lose this pawn and then this rook. So I have to give a check, and after king h8, I can bring the knight out, saving my rook. And now my opponent played this move, which is a mistake because it allows me to push the pawn, and I have a protected passed d-pawn. So he played b6, trying to undermine the base of the pawn chain, but I didn't really care. Now I'm threatening to take the bishop and just be up a piece. So my opponent took, and I just move out of the way. And now my opponent made another tactical mistake, I just take the queen, check, you have to take back, and you don't have time to save the bishop. So now I'm up 2 pieces. Now after pawn takes, bishop c4, attacking the rook. The rook moves. Now the knight has a nice outpost with ideas of checking the king. My opponent gives a spike check, so I just move the king, and now he goes h6, which blunder is made into. And here my opponent resigned because, well, the only move is to go back, but that's checkmate because the knight is defending the h7 square. So yeah, it's not very often that you win a game right out of the opening, especially when you don't know the opening theory. So I hope that you liked the video. If you did, hit the like button and share and subscribe, and thank you for watching.